Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. So we've stopped at the Gaskill Brothers Stone Store in Campo, California, and there's been a store on this spot since 1868. But when the original store was robbed in the 1870s, they decided they needed to beef up security and built this absolute fortress of a store. This place is pretty cool and it looks absolutely amazing. So let's take a look around the Gaskill Brothers Stone Store. We are about an hour southeast of San Diego, near the Mexican border, in the historic town of Campo, California. And there's no existing building more important to the town's history than where we are today. A building that exists because Campo was the site of what's been called the second bloodiest civilian gun battle of the American West, second only to the OK Corral. When driving by on the highway, it's kind of hidden by trees, so if you blink you might miss it. But this is the Gaskill Brothers Stone Store. Built right along the old wagon road, and also the train tracks pass only a few feet from here, this was really the hub for the area. Speaking of trains, it looks like we have one coming by right now. I was not expecting this. The history of this store is really the early history of Campo. In the spring of 1868, two brothers from Indiana, Silas and Luman Gaskill, arrived in this mountain valley and established a village with a mill, a blacksmith shop, a hotel, and a store. You can see how close we are to the highway here. These stone benches used to sit around the hanging tree, and we'll get back to the hanging tree in just a little bit. But it's believed these were made by Italian POWs during World War II. Here's the historic marker for the store. The store was built right on the old wagon road. Let's actually head down the wagon road real quick and talk a little bit more about the history. In total, the Gaskill brothers acquired about 1,000 acres of land, and with an influx of former Texans who were displaced from their ranch lands after the Civil War, and increased traffic at the nearby international border due to the stage route, business for the Gaskills was good. Within a year, there were about 400 residents here, and Campo earned the nickname Little Texas. In the 1870s, this was still the Wild West, and on December 4th, 1875, all hell would break loose. It looks like something was written on this rock, but I can't quite make it out. Right below us is where the Gaskill brothers' home site was. I believe their hotel would have been right on the other side of where Highway 94 is now. And here's a look further down the wagon road. This is heading towards San Diego. In the fall of 1875, the Gaskills got word that a gang of banditos, led by Cladovio Chavez and his lieutenant, Cruz Pancho Lopez, planned to raid the brothers' store in Campo. The Gaskills assembled a posse, but when they learned Chavez had been killed in Yuma, it was thought the threat was over and things went back to normal. Not knowing, Lopez still planned on doing the raid. On the morning of December 4th, 1875, 6 armed horsemen rode into town. After arriving, 2 of the bandits walked into the store, where a 7th bandit, who had been sent ahead, was already waiting. As Lopez gave the signal to start shooting, an unnamed Frenchman rode up to the store. There's someone in the store right now, and there isn't much room inside, so let's head up top first. I'll put a link to an in-depth rundown of the fight in the description, but the men inside the store shot Luman Gaskill in the chest at point-blank range. Silas Gaskill heard his brother's call for help, grabbed his shotgun right as a bandit ran in and shot him in the side. Silas returned the favor with a blast from his shotgun, killing the bandit. Silas then emptied the second barrel of his shotgun into another bandit. The Frenchman then joined in the fight and shot the bandit leader Lopez in the neck, wounding him. The Frenchman was in turn shot in the arm during the gunfight. While this was going on, Luman, who had been shot in the chest, regained consciousness, dragged himself up, found his shotgun, crawled to the door, and took out one of the bandits that were engaged in the gunfight with the Frenchman. Let's pause from the gunfight for a moment and take a look at the view from up here. Below is the wagon road that we were on earlier. Here's a look back at the stone store. You can see how it's built into the side of the hill. Let's try to go inside now. The gunfight lasted 5 or 6 minutes in total. One bandit was killed outright. 2 ended up later dying from their wounds, including the leader Lopez. A third would have died from his wounds, but Lopez put him out of his misery with a bullet to the head. 2 of the other wounded bandits were captured, but a posse of ranchers wanted a swifter justice, broke the bandits out of jail the next morning, and hung them. Only one bandit escaped unharmed. He was captured years later in Texas. The Frenchman later died of his wounds, but the Gaskills recovered, and in a warning to future bandits, placed the graves of 4 of the bandits at their store. They decided they needed more than just bandit graves to ward off any future attacks, though. They needed a much more secure and defensible store. So in 1885, the Gaskills built their stone store. Here's a look inside the museum. The Gaskills ended up selling the store in 1896, and it changed hands a few times over the years. I believe it was in operation till about 1925, and was pretty run down by World War II. This area is pretty cool because it shows you what the store would have looked like when it was in operation, with period products on the shelf. It looks pretty close to this historic photo. Speaking of photos, there are quite a few historic photos to look at in here. This photo shows some early autos at the store. That wooden building on the right is long gone. It looks like where that building's chimney is, Highway 94 goes right through there now. With the store built into the hill, they actually used the hill to their advantage and were able to dig into it for cold storage. Even today, you could feel a temperature difference coming in here. There are a few Native American artifacts in here. I thought these quartz arrowheads were pretty cool. Here's a little model and diagram showing how the shootout happened. And here are the Gaskill brothers, Silas on the left and Luman on the right. Despite being shot in the chest, Luman Gaskill lived to the age of 70, dying in 1914. He was no saint, though. He was the prime suspect in an 1885 murder, where all of the victims' possessions ended up for sale at the store, and that was only one of a number of murders he was rumored to be involved in. Let's head up to the second floor real quick, which is the Military Museum. The Army has a history in Campo dating to the 1870s, actually first showing up as a result of the gunfight in 1875. They were then here on and off through World War II, when the Army established Camp Lockett in Campo. The 10th and 28th Cavalry Regiments, which were part of the famed Buffalo Soldiers, were garrisoned at Camp Lockett. There's also a small display on the Italian POWs who were held at Camp Lockett, and they actually helped restore this building while they were prisoners there. The Stone Store opened as a museum in 1948, and Camp Lockett closed in 1949. So that's our look at the Gaskill Brothers Stone Store, which is definitely worth a visit if you find yourself in the Campo, California area. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.